Welcome to the Healing Quest. I'm Kate Ellis. This is another episode in Adventures of a Hypnotherapist, where I'm sharing unique and unusual stories of restoration and healing from the most unusual places in ways and means in which I did not develop. Usually I do have a specific way that I want to go in helping a person heal themselves or restore a lost ability. However, I always diverged to the higher self, the superconsciousness, because the superconsciousness has a pulse on exactly what's going on in your life and why you got yourself in the situation you got yourself in the first place. This one client was a young adult, a 18-year-old male who came to me suffering from agoraphobia. My practice specializes in anxiety, panic attack disorders, and I have created a protocol that permanently corrects this. So agoraphobia is the fear of going out in public or being in crowds, and this had developed over a short period of time with this client. What he reported to me was that when he went out in public, people were reading his mind, and this freaked him out. And he also came and he mentioned that he was hearing voices. I wasn't quite sure if I was going to take that this case, somebody hearing voices, can be possibly a little bit out of my league. So I decided to at least work with him with the anxiety panic disorder that he had, and very easily corrected that for him. But he continued to talk about hearing these voices, and I'd asked him finally at the third session, because he wasn't really quite clear about these, and I said to him, "Explain to me about these voices. Are they telling you to do anything?" And he says, no, they're not doing that. I says, "Is the voice like your own voice in your head?" And he goes, "No, not really." And I says, "All right, tell me, explain to me an incident that you had recently about the voices." He says, "Okay, I'm sitting in my truck and I'm thinking of my friend Mike. And I think, you know what, I'm going to call my friend Mike and see if he'd like to go to a head shop and look at some pipes." And as soon as I have this thought, Mike calls me on the phone and says, "Hey, I want to go to the smoke shop. Would you join me? I want to look for a pipe." And this freaked him out, and I knew exactly what I was dealing with. This person was an intuitive who was not aware that he was picking up information. So it wasn't that people were reading his mind. He was actually reading other people's minds. He didn't really accept this. And the funny thing is that this client also expressed to me, he says, "I want to open up my third eye. I want to develop my intuition." And I said to him, "You already have your intuition. You just need to hone your skills with this and understand what it is and how to utilize it." But for whatever reasons, being a teenager, he did not believe me. So what I did is I got myself a manila envelope and I placed a book in it. And every week that he came to see me, I would hand him the manila envelope and I'd say, "I want you to hold this envelope and just tell me the impressions that you have about what it is and the contents in that." And we did this for approximately, 5 or 6 weeks. And I was truly impressed because I knew the contents of the book. He had no idea if it was a book indeed or what it was. And he accurately described all the elements in the story. The story actually was Richard Bach's Illusions, Adventures of a Reluctant Messiah. And if you're familiar with that story, it talks about flying and landing in open fields and crowds of people and all sorts of different things like that. And this client described to me brilliantly all the different elements of this book. And that one day I opened up the manila envelope and I handed him the book and I says, "I'd like you to read this book and you'll understand that you indeed are an intuitive and there's nothing to be afraid of your intuition." There was a complication with this client, and he needed a little bit more therapy. However, he chose not to, or actually his benefactor chose not to continue the therapy for him, even though they had received everything that they needed. He got rid of his panic attacks and agoraphobia. He understood now he was an intuitive, but also he believed that at one time he was at a party, he was drinking and he was smoking marijuana, and in his stupor he believed that he had made a deal with the devil. And I asked him, well, what was this deal? He says, well, I was really crazy about this girl and I wanted her to fall in love with me, and but that didn't happen. But he believed that he sold his soul to the devil, and he was frightened of this. No matter which way I told him that your soul is inviolate, that you actually cannot sell your soul to the devil, he would not believe me. And again, being a teenager on the internet, there's all sorts of misinformation out there. Until thinking about this very hard, attempting to help this young client, finally I came up with an idea. One session I asked him, I says, by the way, you mentioned that you made a pact with the devil, is that correct? And he says, yes, I did. I said, did the devil follow through with his end of the bargain? He goes, no. I says, may I see the contract, please? He goes, well, what are you talking about? I says, may I please see the contract that the devil and you had signed together? He goes, well, I didn't sign a piece of paper. I says, oh, it was a verbal contract then? And he goes, yes, it was. I says, okay, did the devil indeed follow through with his agreement? He goes, no. I says, oh, well, then the contract's null and void. And he kind of squishes his face. He goes, what do you mean? I says, do you understand what the nature of a contract is? And being an 18-year-old, he really didn't understand. And so I explained it to him, that basically parties will come together and agree to provide whatever services or money or what have you, and if for some reason this does not come to pass, they either have the opportunity to sue them for misrepresenting themselves, or basically the contract is null and void and all bets are off. And I explained this to him and he seemed greatly relieved, and I said, so you see, because he did not follow through, your soul is still yours. Finally, with great relief, he was able to accept that, and he was able to move on with his life. He moved out of his house. He went back to college. He got himself a part-time job that he absolutely loved, and life is beautiful. I thank you very much for spending time with me in this most unique and unusual story of healing and restoration. If you'd like to get a hold of me, I encourage you to visit my website, thehealingquest.com. Thank you. Have a great day.